message has been the same after a lot of these games. RSL puts in a great performance in between the boxes, struggle a little bit with some mental letdowns on defense. How does that change going into the last few games before the break?
Yeah, no, I think again, there's so many things, and I think that's why getting results in soccer is a very difficult thing because every phase is really important. You don't know what phase is gonna help you win the game. You don't know what phase is gonna add to not getting the results. And again, I think the review that we had was on corners and on defending in and around our box, right? So we have to do everything really well. But I feel really good about the mentality of the group. Again, they're taking a lot of things on. We're moving players around to try to find uh, the right consistent relationships to be able to score goals. And again, we hadn't scored in 200 something minutes. Broke that snide last game, so that's a step in the right direction. And again, we just have to have a complete game. And it's often, again, I've said this a million times, it's often very difficult when you have a young group and you expect experienced decisions in certain areas. And that's just a byproduct of having, but I feel like the group is all in, they're learning, and I feel our performances are getting better as the season goes.
Most of the goals, practically all of the goals, have come from the midfield. How do you get your strikers on the board? Is it just Willie getting comfortable and working into the team?
Yeah. I think Willie had a couple good looks last game, so it's not, it's not from a lack of him getting on the ball. I think he had two really good looks. There's another one in the second half where I think Alex whips one in and decides to cut it back, but Ari had position on his center back. So another part of what we're trying to do is now that we know we have the runners in the areas is executing from the crossing perspective. And for the first look we should always have is behind the defense to our 9. That's the one that is the high goal scoring percentage. And then from there we do the secondary, third, tertiary cutbacks and those kind of things. So something that we talked about, but I think it's just, and strikers are always operating this way where it's difficult, they score one, and all of a sudden they come in droves, right? And then there's belief and confidence. And so I think the most important thing for Willie is to continue to be in those positions and to hit the back of the net.
So how do you develop confidence in your team to actually make those line-breaking passes and to reward those runs that strikers are making instead of maybe playing safe and trying not to lose the ball and create a turnover?
Oh man, we spent all last week on that, and so to see a goal come from Gozo breaking the back line, to see Dom whipping a ball behind the defense, like those are things that we worked on. And now we're talking about how do we be aggressive in that final third and not just keep the ball to keep the ball. And I think last game was a step in the right direction. But you're right. The guys will only continue running ahead of the ball as long as the delivery is there. It's a trust thing. If the delivery stops coming, then they start coming to feet, and we don't get what we want. So again, it's just encouraging the guys to put the ball in dangerous positions and make sure that we hold ourselves accountable to be in those spots to be able to tap the ball in or create a secondary goal like Diego Luna scored at the weekend.
You got 2 games this week, and then there's an international break. Does that play into how you rotate or maybe not rotate these next 2 games?
Yeah, the most important thing for me in these 3 game weeks is how the guys come out of the previous game. Because again, if they come out pretty good and their numbers and we match up with like the eye test with the physical data, if it looks solid, if it's in a range where we feel that player can now contribute another 60 minutes, we won't make any changes. But again, I think in these 3 game weeks, there's the fatigue from the previous game start adding up. So I think those decisions will be made after each game. But again, the other balance to that is how do we keep continuity within the group that has, for me, played the best attacking game that we had and not lose sight of that whilst giving other guys an opportunity. So I think all those 3 things will factor into the decision making for the rotations.
2 different kind of teams. You go down to Texas with Austin, then you go to LA. What are the changes in approaches, if there is any?
Yeah, I think Austin have been a real stingy team defensively and have had a lot of their success in the attack on transitions. So it's going to be it'll be tough to break them down because they're okay sitting in a low block and absorbing a lot of pressure. So we have to again keep making runs to the depth, even if there's no space behind the depth, to keep moving their back line back and then make good decisions in that final third. And what they pose is a transition threat. So our rest defense has to be dialed in, and I think Jay Glad has done a really good job of commanding that. So that's Austin, and then LA is a team that is still, and I think a little bit like us, kind of snake bitten with a bunch of calls, a bunch of different decisions going their way. They're a really good attacking team. They're a team that pride themselves on the ball away from home. We're a team that want to get after the ball, so there's going to be that little battle. But then again, I think we had success getting in behind them here. The mindset is to continue to do the same, whilst being aware that Peck and Paintsall are real handfuls, and we have to be able to handle the wide areas in order not to give up good chances.
LA plays on what is perceived to be a larger field. Does that play into it, how you approach the game, a little more defensive, or does that open you up for a more attacking opportunity?
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game. What I don't want to do is change game to game, especially with the group that we have. It's consistently building upon the previous performance. So even though it's a bigger field, the way I'm looking at it is we should have more joy with the ball. We might suffer a little bit more without it because they're good with the ball and the field is big, but we've got to be able to adapt. And I think if we play to our principles, regardless of the size of the field, we'll find ourselves comfortable in a defensive stance, whether it's a high block, mid block, or low block.